I want to first of all, again, thank you for joining me. My name is Eric Lee with Equity Real Estate, and today we're going to talk about business planning. Now, I approach business planning quite a bit different than a lot of people do. We've had people come to our company and try to sell us on their training programs and their business planning stuff, and they get very complicated with their plans. I've seen business planning guides that were basically an entire book, talking about your plan 5 years out and 10 years out. And I've learned one thing in this business is that you can't predict 5 years out. There are so many changes that happen in the industry, and especially if you're a new agent. Like, I'll give you myself, for example. When I started, I came from a business where I was earning maybe $45,000 a year. To go from that to being self-employed for the first time, and honestly, my income wasn't very good to start out. As soon as I started to apply these training concepts, I jumped up to about $100,000, and then life changed completely. All of a sudden I had a little bit of a marketing budget. I could breathe a little bit. I wasn't so worried about paying the bills. Things changed dramatically in this business, I guess is my point. And what I would like you to focus on is not some 5-year projection or 10-year projection or something like that very well may apply to another type of business. I want you to focus on, what can I do right now? I think it's healthier for you. You don't worry so much about the future. You can focus on the here and now, and you can actually go to work quickly. As far as figuring out big budgets and stuff, again, if you're a well-established team, then budgeting and finding an allocation for assistance that you're going to pay, that's a different type of business. And again, for most of us, my training is designed to get us up to 100,000, and we don't need team members or big teams or groups or whatever to help us get there. We can get there on our own. We just have to know how to do it and what is it we need to do. And that's frankly doing some work. So I want to start out with this quote from Jim Rohn. If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. And in real estate, this couldn't be more true. Except for other people's plans usually involve us running around like mad. If you don't have your own plan, you get one client and they will monopolize you. They'll call you at all hours. If you don't have a business plan where your hours are posted, and we have other trainings on that, then all of a sudden you're answering your phone at 6 in the morning and 11 o'clock at night. And I've even heard some realtors tell me they get calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they say, I'll always answer my phone. I think that's insane. If you don't have a plan, other people will completely abuse you until you get sick of this business, and then you leave. You have to have a plan, okay? We are self-employed. We are our own business, and it's a fairly unique business. So we can't really model it after the guy that, buys a McDonald's franchise or something. But there are certain things that we can do. Okay, so step one, there we go. Let's talk about goals. Any business, any self-employed person is going to have goals. And we have another training that's completely about goals, so I'm not going to go into that a ton here. We're just going to talk about one number. What is it you need to make? Okay, I guess two numbers. What do you want to make? What do you have to make? Because that's a very different concept. Agents will come to me and they'll say, all right, I want to make $100,000. And I'll start working with them. And they're making 3 calls a day. And so then I have to have a different conversation with them that's more like, all right, you've been telling me for a couple of weeks you want to make 100,000, but you're not going over 3 calls a day, so you won't hit 100,000. That's simply not possible with 3 calls a day. What do you have to make? Tell me a number that if you don't hit, then you quit real estate. You go out and you find a different job. What is that number? Because I can tell you what you have to do to hit that number. And if you're not willing to do that, then you might as well pack it up right now and quit losing money. And sometimes that's a very different conversation. One is exciting. I want to make $100,000 and that's going to be great and that'll change my life. And the other conversation is more like, look, you do this or you're done. And it's a scarier conversation, but sometimes that conversation is more powerful because it's a stark reality sitting in front of you, and it's not fun, but it sometimes says, you know what, this is a tough business, and in order to make it here, I can't sit around and play games. I've got to get serious. So I want you to think of those two numbers right now. If you have a notepad in front of you, something like that, what do you want to make? What do you have to make? All right. I'm going to use a couple of numbers as well. Another thing that we want to know is, what was the average sales price in your market last year? And what percentage of clients actually closed? If you're a new agent, you won't know the answer to the second question, but you should be able to tell what the average sales price in your market was last year. You can ask your broker, you can ask experienced agents, you can look at the board. They typically send out statistics to you. You can just guess based on what you think, okay? But that's going to be something that factors into how we make our goals. And then if you're an experienced agent, you sign on a client, and how many of your clients that you actually signed went to closing? And we don't close everybody. You know, buyers do crazy things with grades. They lose, or with their credit report. They lose their job. Lots of things can happen to kill a deal. Sellers sometimes don't have the equity. Sometimes they just change their mind and they don't move. But what percentage would you think actually close? And that's going to factor into our goals. So if you have some of these numbers in your head, let's get those down on a piece of paper, and we'll use them later on. All right. So a couple numbers that I'm going to use here. Let's say that I want to make $100,000 a year. And this is kind of what I've built my training around, getting you to $100,000 a year. Typically, that's an upgrade in lifestyle, and you now have marketing budget, and it's a good place to be. And you can go up from there if you want to. You can get busier. You can hire a team, et cetera, et cetera. Some people just love being at that range because they can do it themselves. They don't have to have the stress of an assistant, you know, payroll staff, things like that. They don't have to worry about any of that. They can comfortably do $100,000 or so a year, and it gives them time to golf, and it pays their bills. Other people are hard drivers. They want to hit, you know, $250,000 or $500,000, and they want to hire teams, and they want to work 7 days a week, 12-hour days. That's great. If you want to do that, that's fine. I don't typically train on that because that's not who I want to be. But you can apply the same principles here, okay? So let's say $100,000, I need 24 transactions a year. I'm going off of a market with about an average sales price of $150,000. Let me go back a little. I have to make $60,000, which is about half of that, or I go out of business, okay? So you can run these numbers kind of side by side and see what you have to do differently for each of those. And we'll get to this in a little bit. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go through some different steps that we're going to take, and then I'm going to show you some forms that I use to help us accomplish these steps, okay? So step number one, and we have a full training on, it's called your Ideal Week training. So if you want to, you can go to our, where we have our webinars recorded on our YouTube channel. And by the way, if you go to YouTube and you type in Elite Agent Training, all is one word, you can subscribe to that channel there and have access to all the recordings. But there's one in there called the Ideal Week, all right? That one talks about this type of thing, mapping out your time throughout the week. So step one, determine your resources. Your time is your most precious resource that you have. So go over your week, watch that training there, and say, what hours are going to be dedicated to real estate? What's my commitment level? And again, this goes back to that, what do I have to make? Your commitment level at that have to make should be 100%. I have to do this or we're done, all right? And what's my budget or timeline to start earning money? For example, if you have another job, which many agents do when they start in real estate, they come in kind of dipping their toe in. Very few people just cannonball it. They have their other job, they're making money, and they start doing real estate on the side, hoping that eventually real estate income will replace their full-time job income, because real estate can be a fun job. Sometimes they learn that it's not fun and they pull back from real estate and just stick with the other job. But if you do learn that you love it, a lot of times people start that way. They dip in. So what's your budget for this? Real estate isn't cheap. You get in, there's recurring costs every single month. You've got board dues, you've got MLS fees, you've got marketing costs. You've got to buy signs, you've got to buy lock boxes, lots of stuff. Now, being with Equity Real Estate takes the sting of a lot of that away. We provide you a free website. We provide you with mobile applications. I have probably paid close to $10,000 for just website development over the years. And I love the fact that I don't have to worry about that now. So we do take a lot of the costs out of it for you, but there's still some expenses in this business. So do you have a budget set aside for this? When do you have to have your first transaction close? Because these are conversations that somebody should have had with you when you started, and realizing that you could start today and not have a transaction for 3 months down the road. Even if you got a client today, you might not have a transaction close and get a paycheck for another 3 months. So there's some things to determine there and plan accordingly. So if you're a brand new agent, I don't usually encourage brand new agents to quit their job. I encourage them to start setting into place habits, allocating some time each week to making those calls. And the nice thing about real estate is when you get a paycheck, typically they're large paychecks. And that can give you some of that breathing room that can allow you to pare back a little bit from your other job and start devoting more time to real estate. Okay, step 2 is determining key activities. And again, if you'll go to my Ideal Week training, we talk about that, time blocking and mapping out the activities that you're going to do throughout your week. So that would be step 2. Key activities, in my opinion, prospecting and marketing are right at the top. You have to get out there. You have to talk to people. And again, I'll show you some forms later on that will help you in this process, but those are your primary key activities. Appointments, when you going to go on appointments, education and self-improvement, setting aside time for those things is important, and planning each day is an important activity. So again, all part of that other training. I'm not going to go into it a lot here, and since you can reference it from my YouTube channel if you want to. Step 3, and this is something that a lot of agents do not do well, but businesses have to do. So I would encourage you again to act like a business. Determine a budget for your marketing. 10% is easy, because if you're not making a lot of money, 10% isn't a lot of money. If you're making a lot of money and you want to give 10%, if you're making $100,000 and you're putting 10 grand into marketing, you can do some fun stuff, and you can push up your income maybe up to 150 with some of the marketing that you're doing. Or you could decide a monthly allotment. I'm going to set aside $200 a month for marketing, and that could be business cards this month. And next month, I want to do this print up stuff or whatever. Okay. Have a budget for marketing though. Any real business has a budget to get themselves out there. So set aside some time, have a plan in place of when I make this much, I'm going to set aside this much of it, and I'm going to do this. Maybe it's buying closing gifts. Okay, that's what I did last year. I set aside a budget, and I bought about $10,000 worth of closing gifts that I have now stockpiled and set aside. And there was some nice stuff. I had some engraving done and things like that. So, but I wanted to have a budget for that to make it happen, so that for the new year, I could kind of plan on my marketing, what I was going to tell people they would get, and things like that. So have a budget for marketing. Understand some of your resources that can help augment that budget as well. You've got a lender that, now lenders are, well, we're both actually under some laws, okay? We can't have lenders just give us stuff, but we can do co-marketing with a lender 50-50. So for example, in my marketing, if I take a listing, I send out a postcard to about 100 of the surrounding neighbors. So that postcard cost me $31.50. And that's for the development of the postcard, sending it out, postage, everything. It's $31.50 for 100 postcards. I think that's a fantastic deal. And I do that with my lender, and he pays $31.50. And the lender that I'm working with is actually Guaranteed Rate. You see their logo in the top right of the screen, but they've got a lot of programs. So they said to me, we've got a program that puts together postcards, get us 3 photos of your house and your contact information. And then the lender that I work with, his contact information is on the other side of the postcard. And so we both pay half of it. We both get a benefit. and they do the shipping and everything because they've got a system that does that, but I truly pay for half of the expenses so that we're in compliance with the law. That basically doubles my marketing budget, having somebody else that I can partner with to send stuff out. So my $31 is doing $62 worth of work. Other brokerage resources. So many agents don't take the time to get into Equity's website, that Elevate website. In fact, I think almost once or twice a week, I'll have agents text me and say, hey, where can I find this? And I say, go to Elevate. And they text back and say, what's Elevate? I'm like, oh no, you've been with me how many months and you don't know what it is? And I've sent emails explaining it to them. I mean, I have a set of steps that I take with every new agent that says, hey, welcome aboard. Here's this, here's this, here's this, here's your logins. And so when somebody isn't checking out their resources, that makes me really concerned about how serious they take their business. So understand some of the resources that are available to you. And if you go to that Elevate website, there is a lot. Make sure that you're using that ProAgent website. There's a lot of functionality there. Make sure that it's set up correctly, that you've got your profile built out on it. Same thing with the mobile app. If you're sharing that around with people, build out your profile on it and make sure that it's done right. Some other resources, I provide enhanced marketing offers in my office. Basically, it's something that I offer for some of my agents that we can do extra marketing on some of their listings and help them out, because sometimes that can get expensive. But talk to your broker, go to Elevate, check out some of these resources that we have, because there is a lot on there for you, lots and lots of marketing. If you're looking for other marketing venues, maybe to experience some savings, on the Elevate site, we've got Sharper Agent, and we provide that to you for half price. Normally it's $40 a month. I think we provide it for $20 a month, but you have to go through the site to get it. Sharper Agent has every marketing material you could imagine. I mean, just a huge repository of marketing stuff there. So understand some of the resources that you have available to you, because when you don't understand these resources, then people will email you stuff and say, hey, sign up for us and pay this money and pay that money. And then agents are calling me saying, hey, I'm just about to finish up my website and it's cost me a couple $1,000 and I wanted to review it with you first and see if it's in compliance. And I have to ask them, why is buying a website? We've provided you one for free. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, there's $2,000 gone because you didn't know. And that's a concern. Obviously that's not a great business decision, especially since we have it posted everywhere. So step 3 is have a budget for marketing and understand some of the resources that are available there to help you with your marketing. All right, step 4 is track stuff. And again, I'll show you some forms that will help you do this. So you've got to track your activities and results. If you've ever worked, most of us have worked as a cashier or something like that at some point, maybe at a grocery store or even like a McDonald's or something like that. At the end of the day, you do what? You take the till and you count it out. And the till has to match whatever you typed in as receipts. It has to match the sales receipts. And if you're off by a little bit, it's a big deal. I remember times where we're looking for pennies. What happened to this? Where did it go? What's wrong? If it's off by $10, somebody might get fired. It's serious. Businesses are serious about tracking activities and results, because that's the only thing that tells us is what we're doing all this time that we spent for this entire day. Let's say you're full-time, you did an 8-hour day, maybe a 10-hour day, sometimes 13, 14-hour days is what I'm putting in. We all do that, okay? At the end of an 8-hour day, did what I do make a difference? Did I get results? And if I didn't, then I need to quit doing 8-hour days like that, okay? I need to get results. I need to sharpen my skills. I need to improve myself. Yesterday, we just finished our Region 11 conference. So it's about 6 states that met at Park City for the last 3 days. And we had, I can't remember his name. His last name was Manning. And I don't have my notes in front of me. but I think he's the author of, I think the book is called The Fearless Life. But it was absolutely inspiring. This guy was a professional athlete at age 17. He went into psychology. He's a doctor now, and one of the personal coaches for some of the best athletes in the world, from the Olympic team to Red Bull athletes, just a huge spectrum of athletes that this guy's a personal coach to. And he said something that stood out to me, and you guys have probably heard this before. We've heard the saying, practice makes perfect. He said that is so erroneous. He says that is one of the biggest falsehoods perpetrated out there. He said practice doesn't make perfect, because what if you're practicing the wrong thing? If you're practicing doing it wrong, you'll become perfect at doing it wrong, not perfect. He says instead, understand that practice makes permanent. Practice makes permanent, not perfect. And so understanding that whatever you're doing makes it permanent, make sure that you're doing the right thing. Focus on the right skills. And you don't know that unless you're tracking your activities and your results. Okay? So we need to start doing this. How many calls are we making on a daily basis? Out of those calls, how many appointments are we generating? Out of those appointments, how many clients actually sign an exclusive agreement with us? And out of those clients that sign exclusive agreements, how many closings are we getting? Because in this tracking, we can see which skills we need to polish. If I'm making, let's say I'm making 20 or 30 calls a day, and I'm not getting any appointments, what's the skill I have to work on? I've got to work on my call script, maybe my timing. Okay, maybe I'm not talking to enough decision makers. I need to call when people are home, something like that. So that tells me right away, go work on your scripts, and I can go and I can get training on that. You can attend my training, you can attend other people's training, you can go online, you can go on Facebook, you can try things out, but you learn very, very quickly when you start tracking what am I doing is working for me and what is not working for me. So let's say that we're making our calls and now we are getting some appointments. We've polished up, we've started practicing our scripts, we've got better scripts, we're on the right path. Now we're getting appointments. However, nobody is signing on with us. Well, now we can go to our presentations and say, I need help with my presentation. And we have trainings on that. And again, you can talk to your broker. You can go to Facebook and ask some of your other equity friends or whatever. We have lots and lots of resources for you. And now you can start practicing your presentations. So you start refining your presentation and it gets really good. And now you're going on appointments and you're signing clients on with you. And those clients aren't closing. Now what's the problem? Okay, now the problems expand a little bit out from you. Maybe I need help with my marketing on my listings, and we have trainings on that. Maybe I need to get my people qualified, and I need to go out and meet some good mortgage lenders and understand better their processes. Maybe I need to understand my paperwork better so that I don't mishandle the paperwork and create extra drama for my clients that causes deals to fall apart. Now I can start training myself and fine-tuning my skills in other areas, okay? And the truth is, it doesn't go like this in a domino effect. The truth is, we learn little pieces of ourselves in all of these areas. So I might be working on my calling scripts at the same time as I'm working on understanding forms and paperwork better, because those things are always changed, even for experienced agents. They make changes to the forms. We need to get in there. We need to study them, and we need to go to CE classes that talk about how to use them. Maybe if understanding different permutations, if I use it wrong, it could create these problems and add to this lawsuit or something like that. There's always learning that we can be doing, and it happens all along this scale. Okay, but we don't learn those things about it if we're not tracking it. If we don't build our business on purpose, then it happens to us on accident. And learning by accident is expensive. I had an agent just the other day call me and, very upset, had filled out a form incorrectly. And now her client's getting a lawsuit threat. That's scary, and it happens to all of us. Okay. And I call that the tuition of the School of Life. And I don't know very many agents that haven't paid some tuition to the School of Life. We can offset that with our learning. We come to the classes, we try to attend our trainings, we go to CE classes, we take our business seriously. That's not an insurance policy against the school. Sometimes School of Life is still going to beat us up a little bit, and we're going to take our hits, but we can certainly avoid some of those things by doing that. So tracking your activities and results helps open the doors to you to teach you how much more there is to know, okay? How much more of your skills we can develop. All right, step 5. Now we can adjust. We've made our goals, we've tracked our activities, we know what's working, we know what isn't working. Now we can face the truth. And like I said, for some people, they just realize real estate is hard. I looked at my realtor who sold my home and they did it in a couple of days and I thought it was easy. They don't understand the hours of work we put in the background trying to keep the deal together. I've got a client right now, his inspection came back terribly. I'm probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times on the phone with different people trying to keep that deal together, trying to negotiate things. He doesn't see any of that. He just texts me and says, well, have we heard anything yet? They don't see this. And if he were on the front lines, he would either give away a ton of money to try to make the deal stick, or he would get emotional about this bad inspection report on his house, and he would tear the deal apart because he's emotional. Okay. We do work hard. It's not an easy business. Sometimes for people, the hard truth is this isn't for you. That's okay. Okay. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with that. You need to love the business that you're in. But some of us do the job and we find out we do love it. And, we want to make this a career. We want to make this a lifestyle. So the question is, do we work harder? Do we scale back our hours at our other job? Do we put in a notice, actually, that we're going to leave our other job and go full time with this? And if we do that, then we need to make a big adjustment of our goals and we need to recommit ourselves and basically go through all 5 steps again. Reassess our budget. How much money do we have? When do we need to make it by? That kind of stuff. Do you ease up a little bit? This is a legitimate concern for some agents, is they look at their goals and they say, you know what, my goal was to make 100. I made 130, but I missed a lot of my kids' ball games. And I haven't gone on a date with my wife in 4 weeks because every Friday night I'm out showing homes, and I need to ease up a little bit because this is not the life that I want. The money's fine, but I could take a $30,000 pay cut, still be happy, and actually have a relationship with my family that I treasure more than that $30,000. That's okay too. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And so if you feel like you need to ease up a little bit because your life goals aren't to be a millionaire, great. Be happy with your life and don't feel bad about doing that. Okay. I have some grandmas in my office and they come to me and they say, this is my goal. I want to close 4 or 5 deals a year so that I can have a great vacation and I can travel and see my grandkids. Fantastic. Let's make goals to get you there. I'm not going to push somebody like that, go close 24 deals a year. They don't need to. So for some of us, we're at a point, we're making 100,000, but we are running a lot. We still want to have a relationship with our family, but our goal is 200,000. We know we don't want to put in 80 hours a week because we have little kids. We could do that when we were single. We could work all day and all night, whatever. But now we've got a family. So what do I need to do to get to 200,000? Maybe I need to start looking at an assistant. Maybe I need to partner with another agent. Maybe I focus on listings and I have a buyer agent that I work with. All of these discussions come up at step 5. Now that we've analyzed our business, we know what we're doing, we know what works. A lot of agents will do this on step 1. Okay, but they don't have any numbers to make decisions with. And they're thinking, I need a partner. I need a partner just to help me get going. Okay, And if you need that, talk to your broker, maybe do our coaching program or a mentor program or something like that. But for most people, I would recommend track your own results first. Okay, because even if you hired a partner or a mentor or something like that, a good one's going to have you tracking it. I know I wouldn't want to partner with an agent that never tracked their activities, because if I'm splitting deals with them or something like that and they can't ever tell me what they did, yeah, that's going to be bad blood. You know, that's a recipe for future disaster. So partnering with somebody doesn't fix that. You have to be responsible for yourself. Track your own activities. And once you have that information in hand, now you can make an educated decision on, do I adjust goals or not? Now, we're not done. I want to show you some forms and some other things. Here's my YouTube channel and my email address. If you need to contact me for whatever reason, or you need to visit some of those other trainings that I referenced, that's what it looks like in YouTube. Go there and type it all out as one word: Elite Agent Training. Now I have to do this, and okay, I'm going to take you through 3 different forms. That's not a form. It's my own. There it is. All right. We're going to start with this form right here. So this is kind of what we've been talking about. By the way, please type it in if you can't see this form very well. And okay, and I'm going to drag this form over here. Then I can switch between them all. Okay, this is a monthly business plan guide that I came up with. So you're going to have one of these every month. By the way, don't email to get a copy of this. You've got it as a handout. So on the webinar dashboard panel, you should be able to download these directly to your computer and then reuse them on a regular basis. Okay, so every month, a monthly business plan guide, I would print that out. And this is where some of those numbers that you were jotting down earlier can come into play. So what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to use this to plan out our income. We've got our yearly income goal, because you wrote that number down at the start of our training today. Let's say that was $100,000. Our transaction goal, in order to make that, we look at that average transaction size and, you know, a 3% commission. But I'm going to say 24 transactions a year will get me $100,000, okay? That's based off of about $150,000 transaction size. I'm making about $4,000 a transaction. So 24 deals gets me 100 grand, all right? Monthly, I need to close 2 transactions a month. Clients, in order to close 2 transactions a month, again, out of experience, let's say that half of my clients don't close for whatever reason. So I'm going to need 4 clients a month, right, in order to close 2. My weekly appointment goal. For a brand new agent, I would say maybe 50% chance of landing your client the first time you go out there. So if you want 4 clients a month, you need to have, let's see, that would be a client a week. So 2 appointments a week in order to land one of them. All right. For an experienced agent, you might land everything you go out on. Now, how many calls a day do I need to make to hit this goal? I would recommend for a full-time agent, start at 20. If you're part-time, do 10. Okay. But you have to do some every day, or it's not a business, it's a hobby. And again, that's part of being honest with yourself, which was part of what we just covered. So let's say that my daily call goal, if I want to make 100,000, is 20 calls a day. All right. Now I'm going to, this is my plan. Every month I take this, I fill this out, I keep this in front of me on my desk every day. Okay. Every day I review this and say, this is my goal. This is how many calls I need to make. And then I shift immediately to this form right here. Okay. So this is my daily AMP form. This gets me amped up. I've got a few things right here at the top, and I print out one of these forms every day. I actually have a little 3-ring binder that I put it in. And for some of you saying, I thought you go paperless, or, you know, put this in a planner or something like that, that's fine if that works for you. For me, I always end up scribbling notes down somewhere. If I'm on the phone, I don't like trying to take notes on my phone as well. I'm doing it on a little piece of paper. Sorry. How I use this form. I've got my affirmations and daily goals. Every day I want to review those. So I go to this sheet, I go over my goals. I have a clear focus in mind of what I need to do today so that as I'm planning my day out, I can make sure that I'm shooting towards that target, okay? My affirmations, I do a different training on that, but that encompasses my whole life. I want to become the right person. And this is where I said that maybe you find you need to scale back because you need to have a relationship with your kids. You need to have a relationship with your wife. If we just focus on business, sometimes we get out of kilter and we start wobbling a little bit. We're working really, really hard. We're making a lot of money and we're going to lose our family in the process. Okay. We don't want to find ourselves in that position. It's not a fair trade. So have your life goals, not just your business goals, but your life goals. That's your affirmation stuff. Have that in front of you on a daily basis. Review that. Exercise every day, a little bit of exercise, keep you feeling good about yourself. Plan and prioritize your day in advance. If you've got this form in front of you, you're doing it. And read or listen to an audiobook. This is your education. Every day, remember to educate yourself. Make it a habit, okay? Start your day out with gratitude. Every day I'm grateful for 5 things, okay? Be specific with these things. You could say, I'm grateful for my wife, my kids, blah, blah, blah. But that's not very specific, and you'll find yourself doing that same thing. What is it you're grateful that your wife does? Why are you grateful for your wife? Okay? Looking at those things, noticing those things changes your life. Another thing that we got from Dr. Manning yesterday was, 10% of our brain, and again, coming from a psychologist, 10% of our brain is conscious thought. 90% is subconscious. And we fill our subconscious with a lot of stuff. And if we want to unleash that 90% of our brain, that power there, we need to understand how that subconscious thought affects us. If we fill our mind with negative thoughts, then we've created habits, and everything that our conscious mind is pulling from is that huge negative base, 90% negative base. And consciously, we're going to start doing negative things because that's the base that we're pulling from. So be specific in what you're grateful for. Notice the details. Write those down here. That fills up that 90% with positive thoughts. And then, like, for example, I'm grateful every day that my wife takes time to hug me and give me a kiss before I leave. Okay. If I write that down, that I'm noticing that type of thing, then I'm more likely to, well, first of all, I'm not going to rush out the door and miss that. But I'm more likely to think about her better. Maybe on my way home, I grab flowers or something. I take our date time seriously. Sorry, I should just turn my phone off here, but you understand the market today. It's crazy. So I get a few interruptions there. But anyways, that's what this is for. Get your head in the right spot at the start of your day. Okay. Next, these are the people you're going to call. Got name and phone number. Plan that out at the start of your day. Remember, if you don't have a plan, other people will plan for you. Do I make more than 20 calls a day? Absolutely. I look at my phone at the end of the day, and it's usually between 50 and 100 calls every single day. The question is, were any of those the calls that I needed to make, or were they other people filling my day up for me? Because if I'm not sticking to my plan, then my plan doesn't get done. I'm simply doing everybody else's plan for them. Okay. You've got to have your own plan. Next, Fab 5. These are my activities, the actions I'm going to take. And it could be pick up flowers for my wife. That's important. Okay. This doesn't have to all be business stuff. If I'm going over my affirmations and I think, you know what, I've neglected my wife, I need to get her flowers, that makes my list. That's important. Paying your bills makes your list because that's part of budgeting. That's part of business, to stay on top of your bills. But it could be deliver this listing presentation, do this pop by, those can be your Fab Five. I've got 10 spots because most of the time I don't have 5 activities a day. Most of the time I'm filling up all 10. Then at the end of the day, and this is another important thing that comes from Dr. Manning, take time at the end of the day, record 3 things that you did well, 1 thing that you can improve on. Now, I've been training on this for a long time, and I love to hear it from a guy of his caliber saying that this is what works. This is filling up that 90% of your brain, 3 things you did well, 1 thing you can improve on. All right? Take time at the end of the day for your success journal and your notes. It does make a different impact in your life, okay? So I'm using this form every single day on a daily basis, helps me stay focused, all right? Now this form is for tracking, okay? And I am turning my phone off now too much. All right, this form is for tracking. I've got my goals on, where did that other form go? Okay, right here's my goals, and I've got forms or spots in here to fill in the details. And again, every month I'm going to print out a new one, okay? So every week, Monday through Sunday, depending on what days you work, I'm going to record, and I just do this with hash marks, okay? So today, when I make my calls, I've got a goal of 20. I'm going to write small hash marks about the size of my cursor. I don't know if you can see the cursor or not, but I'm going to do hash marks and try to get my 20 calls in today. All right. I get a point for each call that I make. My goal is to get 300 points a week. Now, I've tried to make this form. I've edited this and made this activities that typically are value added activities, things that will generate an income. So this is a way for you to evaluate yourself and see, am I actually doing the work that counts? Okay, I get 5 points a call. If I'm doing, I need to get about 60 points a day, 5 days a week. So if I'm making my calls, I've got to do 12 calls a day to hit that, okay? So you may decide you need to push your points up higher. You need to scale them back a little bit. That's up to you. This is an average that you should be successful with. But again, maybe you want more, maybe you want a little bit less. That's something that you'll learn about yourself as you start doing this. I give 5 points for calls. If I'm out working my farm area, I get 5 points an hour. If I'm calling for sell by owners, I get 5 points for each of those. If I'm doing a mailer to my sphere of influence or farm, I get 1 point for that. I get 2 points for adding names to my database because that is a value-added activity. If I'm sending out thank you notes, I get points for that, and so on and so forth. Again, my goal is with all of these activities, I've got a few points in here for education, attending my office meetings, the webinar today, that kind of stuff. So educating yourself, that's important. These activities are designed to get appointments. If I actually get an appointment, then I come down here and I do a hash mark for that appointment. I got a buyer appointment or a listing appointment. Going on those appointments, I get a point for going on the buyer appointment, and I get a point for doing my presentation, my listing presentation. Okay. I also get a point or 10 points for showing buyers homes. Then my goal is to sign a contract with those people. So if I get an exclusive buyer broker agreement signed or an exclusive right to sell, I get 25 points for that. If I get offers received, I get 25. And if I have a closing, I get 50 points. Okay. If I'm doing this, then I can hit my goal. So this is based off of getting $100,000 with this point number and these point assignments. All right. So every week I use this form, keep my hash marks, and record what I'm doing. Then at the end of the week, I come over here and I say, this week I did 100 calls, 20 calls, 5 days a week. I did 100, and I'll just write 100 in here. And there's enough space here that I could write out 4 weeks worth of numbers. Okay. So this week I did 100 calls. I got 2 appointments. I got 1 client signed and no closings yet this week. All right. And then I'm going to use this same form for the whole month. And so I'm going to do that all through this week. At the end of the month, I'm going to do my summary and I'm going to print out a new form. I'm going to fill out this stuff again. I could have it pre-printed, but I don't want to do that because I like to fill it out because it reminds me what my goals are. I'm writing it out. And then at the start of the month, I start recording my previous month's efforts so that by the end of the year, I've got 12 months of efforts of, I made 1,000 phone calls, and, there's room in here. You can expand and write things out if you want to. And again, a success journal, highlights from your month. What did you learn about yourself? What are some great things that you're doing that you want to keep doing? Maybe replace, because time again is our most precious commodity, maybe replace our less productive activities with things that are more productive. Maybe focus more on my sphere of influence calls than doing open houses or something like. Whatever you learn about yourself, make the notes and build your business. So this is a very simple business plan. I run it off of 3 pieces of paper. I've got my goals here that I review and record on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, so that when I make next year's goals, they're actually informed goals. I've got a daily plan where I plan my days out in advance, and I've got a place where I keep track and see how am I accountable. Okay, this is basically just being accountable to myself. So with 3 pieces of paper, 1 daily, 1 weekly, and 1 monthly, I can track and record my business. I can see where I'm successful, where I have room to improve, and I can actually, let's see, where's my PowerPoint? Oh, one other thing I wanted to show you. So this is kind of a fun one, this goal calculator. Let's say I've got to put in some information up here. Average sales price, $150,000. Let's say I sell, instead of 75%, let's say I sell 50% of the homes or buyers that I actually get close. Okay. What percentage of the listing appointments that I go on do I actually land? Well, again, let's say 50%. Let's say I'm a new agent and I only land half of what I do. How many people do I need to talk to get 1 appointment? If I keep that at 100, then there's that. And then my last one is, how much money do I need to make per year? Let's say 100,000. Okay. So this is information. Some of this is solid. I want to make 100,000. My average sales price is 150. And then this stuff I learn about myself as I track my activities. All right. So if I'm working with somebody as a coach or a mentor and they're struggling, I'm going to have them do this. I'm going to have them track their activities for a week, see what kind of results they're getting, and then we plug those results into here to see what they can make. And this is a fun thing to do. So let's say that how many letters or calls do I need? In order to reach my goals, here's what I need to do per day, per week, per month. So I need to do 37 calls a day. Okay. If I'm an average of 1 appointment for every 100 calls, I need to do 37 calls a day to hit $100,000 a year. Okay. And that's if I if I go on that appointment and I only land half of those appointments, I only sell half of those. Here's the inspiring thing. Even with these numbers that frankly are depressing numbers, this would be what I might expect from a brand new agent with no experience, that is like even no training, just going out and completely roughing it. Every call he makes is worth $11.25. That's amazing. If you're trying to figure out an hourly wage, 37 calls a day, that's a lot of calls. But if you're sitting there thinking, I just made $11.25, on to the next one, that's inspiring. Let's say that we improve our skills a little bit and we now are converting 75% of our appointments into actually working with us. By improving that skill, we've increased the value of our calls to $16.88. What if we, instead of making 100 calls to get 1 appointment, what if we're getting 2 appointments? So we only need 50 calls to get 1 appointment. Now the value of each call is $33. And you can kind of play with this and see how much that gets you. The value of each listing is $2,250. The value of each appointment is $1,600. So this should, my goal with this is to inspire you. Okay, I remember my hourly wage jobs, and I know that I can make 30 calls a day. You know, I know that I can have the self-discipline, because if I go back to that hourly job, they're going to force that discipline on me. I can do it myself if I'm using these forms. And I realize that, even with poor results, each call that I make is worth $11, and I'm making 20 calls a day or 30 calls a day. I can make a great income with this business. So I wanted to show you that goal calculator, because it kind of breaks it down, and it makes all of this work that we're talking about, it gives you a dollar figure for it, and that's kind of fun. So I'm not going to save that. I want to go back here. And my goal for you guys is, I just want to encourage you to stay the course. If you find that you love this business, but you maybe lack a little bit of discipline, use these tools to help you gain that discipline. It takes a little bit of time, but it's easy. They're easy tools to use. And you know that because I use them. And I'm a guy that loves easy, okay? I'm not this super structured, major dynamic person. I've got all of the weaknesses and more that most of you guys have, okay? I love easy. These forms make it easy for me. It gives me real-time information on what I'm doing that helps me, and it helps me stick to it a little bit better. And I do love the job. I love what I do. So hopefully this has helped you guys out. I do appreciate you taking your time to join me today. If you need any other help or things that you'd like to have training on, again, don't hesitate to email me at brokerericlee@gmail.com. And you guys have a wonderful week. I'll see you online next week. Bye-bye.